Hey guys, Jessica here. So today we're going to talk about using generic parts with your Eufy E10 S1S1 Pro pumps. And here's some things I think you need to know. The answer right away, in case you turn off this video after 25 seconds, is don't do it. It's not a good plan. And the reason for that is that part of the way that these companies are making these S32s, like this is the Artemisia, this is the Eufy E10. The bodies on these are actually fairly interchangeable. The big difference is the motors themselves have been customized by each company, like the internal parts. The programming is modified by each company, and then a lot of them modify the diaphragms in order to have it establish suction correctly. So this is the one that comes with your Eufy E10. It's this tan opaque. I understand that these have been coming in and out of stock because I think some people bought more replacement parts than they thought. Companies do, anytime a new pump company is launched and anytime we see a new pump, there is that learning curve on how many parts they need at any given time. If there's a surge in buying, sometimes things go out of stock. And then a lot of moms have, normalized the behavior of waiting till the last minute, which is kind of amplifying that type of crisis. So these diaphragms, people were looking for alternate options. Also, it can be cheaper to buy things off of Amazon. I'm not knocking moms for doing it. But in this case, when you go searching Eufy diaphragms on Amazon, you can come across this one. This one was by Tovlid, but there's so many different brands. I prefer if we're going to buy generic brands. Typically, Tovlid is a really good company to buy. And their products, if they say that it fits with a motor, what they mean is that it physically fits. So this is the Tovlid diaphragm. When Tovlid says this is compatible, what they mean is that they can stick this part in here. It does not fit super neatly. The rim on this is actually thicker than the rim on this. So it does not fit quite as nicely. When you put this on, it does not get as secure of a seal. See if you can see it. In real life, this wants to kind of rock back and forth, even though it is sealed and it will get suction here. But the big thing is it changes your suction pattern. So on the stimulation mode for Eufy, it does have short pulls followed by a long pull. And what that does is it actually elevates the short pulls and decreases the long pull. So it's going to decrease that kind of changing effect, which decreases the efficiency of what that pump programming is supposed to do. But then on expression, it simply topped out. Instead of going all the way to like the 250 to 270 that we've been able to get with testing with this pump or with these two pumps, they're E10 and S1 Pro. We checked them both. Same issue with both pumps. Um, it only got to 220. So if you are somebody who likes lower suction, if you're somebody who has very sensitive nipples, if you're only using your pump on the lower section, it did perform pretty well up to about level 3 to 4. Once it got up above level 4 into like 4 to 7, we did see there was a decline in suction. And there were several times that this actually kind of got stuck in place, almost like it got a vacuum where it shouldn't have been and wasn't able to release it. And that was when I really noticed that these motors were moving up here, meaning that it's actually moving that out. Now, where that is a risk is that if you are somebody who has a large supply, you feel like these are working well enough in terms of your experience. Some nipples can tell, some nipples can't. For some people, it really doesn't matter what parts they're using with the pump, as long as the suction and speed is good enough, they're and close enough to what their body needs, they're good. And it's not that far off. It's still going to work for most people. But where this is a risk is that this doesn't sit quite as neatly. So what that means is that when we get that kind of buckling action in the Tovlid diaphragm, we actually could end up with, if this is full, we could end up with milk flowing and flooding a motor. Whereas with the Eufy ones, it would be really ridiculously hard to get milk up there. You would have to have such a serious overflow and it would have to happen really rapidly in order to force it out of here because this channel is actually going to be the path of least resistance. So then you're the risk of what it pours out. Whereas this could actually quickly suck it in up into the motor. Once you get milk inside of a motor, it's going to cause corrosion. It's going to cause eventual motor death. They really don't survive that long, which is why that is a common reason if we have to take apart a dead pump. We do find that a lot. But I think what's important to know, like, did the generic parts work? Yes. Do they work exactly as Eufy intended them to? No. So if you are somebody who is very sensitive, you're trying to get the most of your pump, you're trying to maintain your pump safety, you want to make sure your parts are working, stick to the name brand in this case. I recommend buying a couple months of parts at a time. So instead of buying your parts on a as needed basis so that you could actually run into a situation where you're like, oh man, shipping got delayed. I live in places where shipping gets delayed a lot. So if shipping gets delayed and you needed the part and it's not here, now you have a pump problem. I always like to have at least one extra set of parts. I actually prefer to have 2 to 3 at any given time so that as I use up the parts, I can order new parts and order them in a bigger order to help save on shipping. But if you're trying to figure that out, check out our wearable pump paperweight calculator. It's in our genuine lactation on demand program. That will all be linked down below, and we hope that this helps. So, in terms of using the generic parts, I think my answer is I probably wouldn't with this pump. You could use those generic parts with the Lancino Duo Discreet and the NCBI S32. I did not detect any differences. Those same parts with the Artemisia, disaster. So it just depends on the pump. You want to make sure you know for sure that, somebody has tested it and then it's not just the company selling the replacement part saying it fits. It's that it fits and it works the way we intend it to, or if it changes it, that we understand it. So hopefully that helps and happy pumping.